All right, here's an oddity. 2 videos in one day. I had to take the sweatshirt off. Whew, my goodness. So somebody had just asked on the last video. Mike had just, another fellow named Mike, fellow West Virginian. Go brother. That he has access to a lease of 13 acres of pasture. And what would I recommend as basically a cash crop? What could he raise? What kind of animals and stuff like that would be a good... I'm going under the porch to turn the water off because I just had to just clean the chicken coops out. Got them all cleaned out. Got the water and the food and everything in there. So he asked what would be a good crop. And here's the big thing. Pasture raised chicken. I would not personally, for us, like our consumption, and truthfully in the future, I honestly, even if I was to go commercial and you know, make it a business, I really don't think I would go with the Cornish cross again. And the reason for that is when we did our last run of Cornish cross, I think we ordered 90. We ended up with 93, and in 9.5 weeks, we were down to 75. And that's, I ran over one with the tractor because it wouldn't move and I didn't see it. But the rest of them just died of whatever, because they're just not a healthy bird. Though you do get a great return on your investment with the bird and the feed in the short period of time. I would much rather, and this is how we're going to pursue it from now on, is go with a dual purpose bird. Now, that is these guys here. So these are the Delaware broilers. And I mean, these roosters are hosses. And these would be what I would be putting out on pasture as I start to raise them and reproduce. They are great size roosters. The American breasts, they got some of the roosters are really good on them. I think I'll tell you folks, you're going to have to watch if you want to get into the American breasts. We got ours. I don't even want to say where, because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but they were different ages. Like there was probably some of them that were 2 weeks old when we got them versus 1 day old. And we got varying sizes, and you could definitely see a difference in the quality of the roosters. Now they are laying, we've got 6 hens and we're getting just about six eggs a day. And we have for a while. The Delaware broilers we just got, started getting eggs from them just last week here. So, and there's about 3 or 4 of them laying right now. Now, the American breasts, they lay a cream collared egg. These guys are laying a tan to a light brown collared egg. And they're small, of course, at first, because they're not fully grown yet. But, you know, that's my idea is in the future is crossbreeding and getting the best and seeing what I can get out of these guys mixed with these guys and go from there. And I may actually throw a Brahma in the mix, or a couple Brahmas in the mix, because the Brahmas are light collared to the Cornish cross, but they're a really big chicken. So I may get the best that I'm going to get between these two, mix them, and then throw a Brahma in the mix to get a bigger dual purpose bird and see what we end up with. So, and the whole purpose of that is something that's going to be sustainable, reproducible right here, that I'm not dependent on an outside entity. Do you mind? So, you know, of course, I do have to depend on an outside entity to get the Brahmas, but once I get them established and get this mix going here, then I know what I've got, and, you know, I can just play around with it from there and get a better, looking for the perfect breed. Not so much the perfect breed, but the best breed for us, that we can get the best meat from, the biggest or the largest amount of meat from, and the best eggs from. Now, Cornish cross again, in 9.5 weeks, man, I had 8 pounds. All roosters, 8-pound carcasses, and some even a little bit more, or in 9.5 weeks. But also in 9.5 weeks, they ate a ton of food, and it's a literal ton of food. And to get what I wanted, I had to go to Virginia to get that feed. And I've told you guys this before in the past, and I mean, it was $1,000 basically for a ton of feed, and plus the 5.5-hour trip over and 5.5-hour trip back. And with the cost of diesel and everything like that, that's when we decided this was going to be the last run of them we're going to do. We're just going to get these 2 breeds here and see what we can get. And like I said, the Delaware broiler was the industry standard before the Cornish cross come to be. So we're just going to play around with that. But to answer your question, Mike, if you get to watch this video, is I would absolutely, I would look at a couple different breeds. Again, my personal opinion here, and you can go back and look at some of the previous videos with the Cornish cross on it. It's just not an animal I want to raise anymore. It's a great product. It's a great chicken, taste-wise and carcass-wise, but the cost that you're going to have incurred in the feed that they're going to eat, because they eat a lot. I would much rather find a good dual-purpose breed and put those roosters out in chicken tractors on the grass. They're not going to eat near the amount of feed. They're going to take twice as long to reach that maturity. So you're looking at about 16 weeks before you get a good sized carcass bird. But for me personally, what we're going to be raising for our family and just a couple people who, you know, will help pitch in and everything like that, I would much rather just go with the dual purpose breed. That way I can get eggs and I can reproduce my own. Now, the other part of that is lambs. If you're going to go with the ruminant, you've got huge cost incurred with cattle. And you're looking at 26 months. Even if you grass raise a beef, you're looking at, from weaned to butcher weight, grass fed, you're looking at 26 months. So you're going to have to winter that animal, okay? And you figure if a steer eats, or a cow, or whatever, steer, cow, whatever you got, if it if you're going to go grass fed with it, 26 pounds of food a day, of grass a day is what they eat, then you're going to have to figure that much hay to get them through 2 winters. So, you know, if you get a 1,000-pound bale, you figure up the math, 26 pounds a day to keep that animal fed through the winter time. So I prefer now, and eventually we'll probably get a couple cows for here, a couple steers, but I'll be honest with you, to do what I want to do in the short term, to where I don't have to overwinter a ruminant, minus the pigs. They think it's feeding time because I'm out here, and it might be getting, I don't even know what time it is. I know it's still daylight, so I'm out here moving. But I seen locally, and that is where we live, Mike, if you're watching this video, I seen lamb at $15 a pound retail. Okay, now that is out of a local farmer's market butcher, or out of a local farmer's market here in north central West Virginia. $15 a pound for lamb. Now, this area, lamb was never a big, it was never a big dish. The amount of ethnicity and diversity that we have in this area, ethnic wise, from, you know, where the immigrants come over here from, you know, all over Europe and Eastern Europe and every place else, for the coal mines and stuff like that, lamb was just never a big dish around here. And the one time I had it as a kid, or as a younger person, I really didn't like it that well. But like I said, like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, my wife and I were at Sam's Club, and they had the New Zealand grass-fed lamb, and they had a good sale on it. And I said, let's get this and try it. I said, I haven't had lamb forever. I said, maybe it's just the way that it was made. And she's such a good cook. And she come home, and there's a video on this channel about that. Man, what have I been missing? And it's a truly very nutritious and healthy meat for you. So we're definitely going to get into lambs. Now, to answer that question, or to give you a little bit more info on that, is in Washington, Pennsylvania, there is a farm. And I think if you look up the Katahdin sheep, there is a farm over there in Washington, Pennsylvania, or Waynesburg, one or the other, that they breed, they have Katahdins, and they crossbreed with a Texel, T-E-X-E-L, Texel sheep. And man, you ought to see them things. Holy crap. And from what I understand, I don't know personally, but from what I understand, that mix, you get a spring lamb from them, and you're ready to butcher by fall, like this time of year, say, you know, October, November, you've got probably 125 pound or more carcass, depending on what you have. And they're saying like fantastic, like wonderful taste. So that's what we're going to look to do. And I really hope to do that. But I truly wouldn't do anything other than a hair sheep, because I'm not going to try to find somebody around here and pay somebody to come and shear my sheep through the hottest part of the winter, or the hottest part of the summer if they need it. And there's no market for wool around here. Not to that degree where I'd want to put that expense out to have somebody come and shear the sheep. So I would truly go with a hair sheep. I would do your homework. If there's anybody around you that raises them, especially the hair sheep, find out. Greg Judy is another person on YouTube, has his own channel, Greg Judy, and he is big with the St. Croix sheep, and a lot of great info on there. Fantastic info on there. But I would definitely go with a smaller ruminant, like lambs. Chickens are definitely on the menu there. As for pasture raised eggs and also for pasture raised meat. You just separate out your roosters, put them out on the pasture in the grass, and you feed them once a day, and they're going to, they're going to eat, scratch, peck, they're going to eat the grass and everything like that. They're not going to eat near the amount of feed that a Cornish cross will. And then your hens, you put them on grass, they're eating grass, they're scratching, they're pecking, they're eating a little bit of layer feed, and you're getting good pasture raised eggs. Now, again, I'll reiterate that pasture raised in a chicken tractor, you can't, I wouldn't call it free range. I truly wouldn't. I would call it pasture raised. The biggest reason why I use tractors around here is because of predation, both air and ground. So that's the only way I'm gonna be able to protect my flock. Again, I'm not going to get into guardian livestock dogs. It's not something I want to even dive into. But, put them in a chicken tractor, you move them once a day, every day on the fresh grass. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And on top of that, I mean, for a dozen pasture raised eggs, you could probably get $5 or $6 a dozen. You have to check your local area where you live. So I think $5 or $6 a dozen for pasture raised eggs would go well. Your lambs, your chickens, you could probably easily on your meat chickens get $5 a pound, okay? Or you could just set a base price of about $15 a chicken to sell them like that. And then with lamb, again, I would look at your local area. Just because it's selling for $15 a pound here, it may go $10 a pound where you're at. I just don't know. You have to do your research and look up the USDA, look up the average price per, say, pasture raised chicken, and go with that. It's something, the medium there, it's not a happy medium, but it's average medium or something like that. And then just kind of price from there. Of course, financials or economy right now, it's harder times. So you may have a little bit harder of a time doing that. But I would reach out, start talking to people in your community, start seeing, engaging the interest around you to see what people would want and what they would be willing to buy from you, and just find a good, comfortable cost. But like I said, I would go with smaller ruminants. You have to have good infrastructure in place, good fence anyways, but you're not going to have the cost of cattle overwintering. You can get your lambs in the spring, and you can butcher them in the fall and have a good sized carcass and make a pretty decent profit out of one carcass. But now if you want to raise and breed, then of course you have to overwinter them. So you have to have shelter for them. You have to have good water, source all year round. And then of course the feed is going to, get them through the winters. But 13 acres, that's a great bit of land to do that with. And you can even do pigs. I mean, you can get pigs like this. We've got them, like here in these woods, it's just like about 1.5 acres. And you could comfortably do, we got these pigs in May, or the end of April. We got them the end of April. And I think she was the youngest, the black and white one right here. She was the youngest when we got them all four. And, I mean, look at the size of her. She's huge. And I think she was 10 weeks. The other female was, the other male was 12, and then 14 and 14, both of them, weeks old when we bought them. And there you go. Here it is December, and we got hosses. They could have went in October, November, but we prefer to wait, of course, until, we get colder weather, because the deed's going to get done here, and I would much rather have good, cold, stable weather rather than the freaking mud we got right now in the 48 degrees. So, but without drawing this out more, yes, I would look in your area, look where you're at, gauge the interest. Pasture raised eggs, pasture raised meat chickens are always going to do good. Again, if you're going to do eggs, Rhode Island Red, nice big fat brown eggs. Buff Orpingtons, nice big fat brown eggs. Barred Rocks, nice big fat brown eggs. And what was the other one? Barred Rock, Rhode Island Red, Buff Orpingtons, and Black Astrolorps. All nice big fat brown eggs. So those are your good pasture raised eggs. As far as your meat chickens, again, I'd look for a good dual purpose, and like I said, we're working towards focusing more on crossing these two, but I will definitely try each one individually before we start playing around with that. But the big thing is I'm waiting for better weather to start incubating eggs, and then getting them incubated out on the grass and see what we end up with. It's not something I'm going to know by next summer. It's going to be something we're going to be continuously working on next summer. And it's like I said, it's going to be the best for us. And there's the couple people who, partner with us to do that. And then maybe in the future, if things do kind of go another way, then I've already got my established breed and what we, you know, the product that we would put out there. But just again, gauge your area. Cattle's not something I would jump into. If you're looking at 13 acres, you can graze more sheep on 13 acres if you do rotational grazing. You know, they like to say 2 acres per animal when it comes to cattle. 5 acres is probably your optimum, and that's what I would shoot for if I'm going to grass raise an animal. So if I've got a 5-acre plot, I'm going to separate that off, and I'm going to move that cow. And you'd have to figure out, you can get online, I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff on there, and even the USDA will help you out. There's programs out there for rotational grazing and stuff like that. So reach out to them, reach out to the West Virginia Department of Ag or the Department of Agriculture in your state where you're at, and just start asking questions. But that's, I'm still working towards it myself, so I'm learning as I go. And I hope that helps. I hope that puts some ideas in your head, and I hope you don't lose sleep like I do over it, because my mind gets to working, and I do things so many times over in my sleep, or at least while I'm laying in bed. But that's just the nature, and it's how it is. Anyways, that's it. I got more stuff to do. Guys, get prepared, stay prepared, take care, and God bless.